Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the St. Louis podcast. My name is Eric Brown, president of Vi Media and partner at Mogul Holdings. Today, we have a special guest on. We have Carly Pepin, international speaker and consultant, transforming personal challenges into growth and purpose, founder of West Coast Growth Consultants. Excuse me. I always butcher the intro. It's hilarious. Today, as always, this is the St. Louis podcast. We're each and every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We drop an episode on all major podcasting, audio, and video platforms where we meet with the most badass people and creators, talk about business, entrepreneurship, and current events. So, my opening question: what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about their own flaws or challenges? I know you talk that you do a lot of personal growth, personal development. What are one of those biggest misconceptions people have about their own flaws or challenges?
Yeah, I think a biggest one is that people think that they're unique in having the perceptions about flaws and challenges. Every single person on this planet has it. And also the misperception of you're going to get rid of it. You're going to get rid of certain aspects. And there's definitely aspects, I dive in, we work on it with clients, and I can get rid of that misperception around a perceived flaw. I can do it. However, it's not going to stay gone forever. It'll come up in a new form as you start to grow and evolve. Because if I'm sitting in front of someone that is a business owner and right now they're managing one employee and they have one person that they're taking care of, they're going to have different flaws and different perceived aspects of themselves that they're calling a flaw than when they're running a 200-person company, a 1,000-person company.
Hmm.
And so it's just to know that we work on this one dynamic to help us get to that next stage, next stage, next stage, until the next thing comes up, the next perceived flaw, and we just continue to work on it. We kind of forget that personal development is the same as a business. A business isn't stagnant. You don't just
Hmm.
get something done and then all of a sudden it's just going to run by itself. You continue to work on it, you continue to innovate with it, and you continue to help it to grow. If you're not treating yourself that way, how do you expect to become a multi-billion-dollar business on your own, right? You are the business.
I think working on yourself is the hardest thing someone can do in their life. I don't think anything is harder than literally addressing your own problems in your own life, or issues that you're having, or issues that you're causing on yourself, stuff you're not addressing. Literally working on yourself, and I was just listening to a podcast about this, which is hilarious. This guy was saying, the hardest thing to do is improve yourself. And I think nowadays, especially in, I've maybe even talked about this on the podcast before. It seems like with more technology, with more distractions, it makes it harder to work on ourselves because we don't even have time to actually think about ourselves until, we turn the phone off, or we close our screen when we're laying in bed, and we have 5 minutes before we fall asleep to think about, issues in your life, and then you'll be like, I'll deal with that tomorrow. And of course it never gets dealt with. Um, do you have any thoughts on that, just distractions in general? Because I feel like business owners are never off the clock, and they never really have time to develop personally. It seems like, for example, a lot of doctors like to talk about being healthy, but then they themselves are not healthy, right? They're working super long shifts. They have terrible sleep and terrible eating habits. It's one of the hardest things. So,
Yeah. And
uh,
this is where well, so 'cause I totally understand what you're saying. When I work with my, especially business owners, those particular clients, they are quite busy. So
mhm,
when I get on the phone with them, I know that, this was a hard thing for them to schedule in. But they get on the phone because they're getting results. That's it. If you want the results, just get on the phone, make it happen.
yep,
We could go through all these excuses of why we're doing it or not doing it. And I mean, the reality is if you really want it, just make it happen, sort it out. The funny thing is like we have this assumption that we can't fit anything into the day. But if you look at your day and you say, well, how can I organize this, structure this to a greater degree that I can fit this in?
yep,
All of a sudden you wind up learning, yes, I can fit it in. And if you can't, which I've worked with clients on before, where it's like, oh, I'm so crazy. It's such a mess. I had an individual who has hundreds of people in their company acting as the HR director. He's the owner of the company and he's acting as HR director. Of course, he's running low on time.
yep,
So part of me too was just going in and making sure it's like, let's get this delegated, let's get this structured, let's let you let go of this control, let's work on it internally and externally so you can walk away and have more time to do what you love and love what you do, right?
Mhm.
So it's like if you don't have the time as a business owner, what is chunking up your time? How can you organize it more wisely, more effectively and efficiently? And then if you're doing things that you're not meant to be doing, it's really time to get in there and work on the business and make sure that things are organized, structured, delegated properly. And this is what I talk to business owners all the time. It's like they'll be like, "Oh, we don't have time to do this or we don't have time to do that." And it's like you don't actually you don't not have time to do this because this dynamic and this cycle and pattern that you've created is consistently getting worse and worse.
Mhm.
People are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it's like you don't not have the time to not put in the energy to make sure everyone can wake up every day, feel comfortable, know what their job duties are, know what they're working towards, and not feel overwhelmed and exhausted. And I see it a lot in the startups too, the ones who are like, we got to sprint to a sale, where they're making all of each other crazy without putting in the actual groundwork to make it a company that's going to stand the test of time, not just a company that's going to get valuated enough to sell.
Yeah.
It's just, I've worked with so many leadership teams in those companies, and they hate being there. And I don't think I've worked with one leader in one of those companies that hasn't left and gotten another job. Like I'm trying to think about it, and I'm like, no, not one. Like they lose some of their top talent to the companies that I'm talking about that are
Yeah.
just like structured and organized
Well, it
because they're
seems
like,
like
I don't want to do this
everyone's
anymore.
yeah, everyone's just short-term minded, right? No one
Uh,
not many people think about long term. And that I mean, that even potentially goes to show with the massive I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, crypto's back, right? Everyone's talking about crypto again. It's like, I'm not gonna tell anyone to or not to invest, but it's just like a lot of the it's just a lot of noise.
yeah.
And it's a lot of people trying to get short-term money and short-term value, and it seems like that for a lot of businesses as well. You said something interesting about organization and scheduling. And what I have found from, just reading or listening or even talking to super successful people is that their day is fairly lined out. And meaning, you know, not saying it's structured like the Instagram reels, you wake up at 4 a.m., all of that stuff, but it's structured in terms of they know what they are going to do on a daily basis, meaning they're going to go into their office. The first thing they're going to do is talk to X, Y, and Z. Then they know the next half an hour is this. The next, hour is this meeting, blah, blah, blah. And they know then that they have this availability to also schedule in and talking to different individuals to help their business or consult or whatever, internal use, etc. And then you talk to the business owners that are all over the place, right? They don't even know what's happening 2 hours from now, let alone tomorrow, right? And I have that, especially in home service. I get it because that's a lot of our clients. That it's hard when you originally meet someone to try and schedule time, right? It's like I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow at 4 o'clock. It's like, well, as the business owner, you should know what you're doing at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Sure, potentially a wrench gets thrown in there and you have to put out a fire because at the end of the day, that is essentially a CEO's job is just putting out fires left and right. But organization and scheduling, right? And I, I talked to a prospect a couple of years ago. He owns a massive a software firm for accounting for accountants, and he was saying he hired someone directly to manage his schedule, and when he did that, paid him whatever 50, $60,000 a year. The return on investment on that by closing off his calendar was he said like 10 times that. He got back 300 or $500,000 that year by organization and scheduling, and also, he said gatekeeping as well, right? Not allowing people that he didn't have any intention of actually talking to or doing anything with getting on his schedule. Um, which is, it's always interesting that the successful ones know what they're doing, and that's almost always the case versus those that are having issues. And a lot of the time, if you're not organized in your business, I feel like you're not organized at your house or vice versa. Which, I mean, if you're not organized where you live, it makes you very difficult to have organization at where you work as well. Um, With that said, you said letting go, right? Letting go of in it do you find that when someone is having difficulty, like you said, he was still doing HR stuff with all of those employees, does it come back to the fact that he started that business? I would assume, or he got into that business with maybe no employees or 5 employees, and he's grown it to that mark, and when you used to do everything, it makes it a lot harder to kind of let that stuff grow. Is that am I kinda reading that, situation correctly?
Yeah, there's a couple dynamics. And I think like what I would love for people who are listening to understand too is it's actually quite normal for businesses to be pretty unstructured on the back end.
Mhm.
I see it more often
Yep.
than not because it's
Mhm.
hard. It's actually a really hard thing to do. It's not easy. And you don't have a team member dedicated to making sure that that happens, who studied it, who understands it, who's actually so knowledgeable. That's like all they know. And that, so it's an unrealistic expectation. It can be really hard. So there's only a small percentage of companies who actually have it organized to this degree on the back end.
Mhm.
That's the truth. And so when we think about like letting that dynamic go as well, it's really interesting because there's going to be a component where, and I've seen this so many times, like you'll start the business and you'll have individuals that have been with you since you started the business. So the relationship with that first person that you hired is different than the relationship with the person, the 500th person you've hired,
Yeah.
right? Or the 50th or even the 20th, right?
Mhm.
So the dynamic and connection keeps dissipating the more people come in the company. And what I've found is that owners, founders, these individuals start to feel guilty
Mm.
as they are disconnecting from what they were doing before. And it's crazy because they have these shoulds in their heads where I should be working more, I should be showing them this, I shouldn't be stepping out. Some of these people don't even know me anymore, some of these people haven't met me, and it's like, okay, let's sort this out. New strategy. For one, let's clear the guilt. Because the
Yep.
reality is if I have you focused on that dynamic of working like in the business every day, you're not working on the business. You are the visionary. You,
Mhm.
as the owner, are the vision. You're driving the vision. You're thinking about the vision and you're helping to create a culture. This is what you're meant to do. You're there meant to also create that culture to make sure that other people are inspired enough to help come up with ideas and innovate and like new cool things for the vision of the company for the future, right? And so if you're not focused on that and if you are putting out fires on a regular basis and you haven't learned how to make sure to train other individuals to be those people who put out fires, then
Mhm.
come to you when it's really bad, right? It's really bad, right? That's when they come to you, when it's like you're the only person who can fix this.
Yep.
And it's not even that it's really bad. It's like genuinely potentially you're the only person who can fix this. I don't have enough training. Help me out, right? And so that's like the dynamic that we want to shift it into, letting go of that guilt, letting go of that shame, and also finding new ways to communicate with your people. So if you're so disconnected, like I was just working with a client on this as well. This is so many times this happens. Like we clear the guilt, but then it's like, how do we keep you connected to your people? Because the company is continuing to grow and grow. When he first started, he had like 10 people under him. And now it's like he's got 80 people under him, right? And he's planning on continuing to grow it. And it's like, well, let's figure out ways, creative ways to have you connected. Now it's like, how can you do something on a weekly basis? And on a weekly basis, he's figuring out how to put out communications to be able to share like wins for the company, next steps for the company so people feel connected to him. How do you put together the events where everyone can get together, create that culture, family? And so it's not that you can't do it, it's just that you're going to start working differently. And
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
brains get so stuck in like, we have to keep going this way, or other people are going to see me differently. And sometimes they do get upset, by the way. Sometimes that person who's been with you for 10 years is upset that you're still not doing the same work that you were doing before. But that has nothing to do with you. That has to do with their own personal emotions. And if they can't transcend that, they may not be a fit for the company long term. And these are also other hard decisions to make. I actually just worked with a client on this as well. He's had someone there for 20 years, and the individual also, they also had some stuff come up just illness wise. So they felt so guilty because he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
This guy's been with me for 20 years. And it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
let's work on this. He finally cleared the fear of actually, I might have to let this guy go. faced him head on with the challenges that were happening, and it wound up that the guy wound up shifting, right? So all it took was clearing that fear so he could have that tough conversation, be willing to lose the person, and now that person is back on track. But if that person didn't get back on track, he's okay letting him go.
Yep.
That's also what happens.
I feel
Yeah.
like we're missing honest conversation in the workplace between, um, executives or managers, whoever is responsible for hiring and firing, and that individual. Um, it almost seems like that confrontation that used to be there is getting less and less, right? And now companies almost want people to, they like the enacting, obviously a bunch of people work from home over the last couple of years. All of the larger businesses saying come back into the office, right? So there's kind of a twofold goal. Obviously, they want people to come back, but they also want people to quit, right? So instead of almost firing people, they leave it up to those individuals that they know probably aren't going to do that anyways as an option to let them go. But it just seems like the honest conversation with individuals, like, I think that's one thing we kind of, have done well with. I mean, we only have, 15 people at Vive, so we're not massive by any means, but, we've had individuals here since the beginning where, we hired them out of college. They were limited experience, and obviously, when we started the business, we were, 23, 24 as well, so it's not like we had a ton of experience either, and put people into roles, and they weren't successful in those. We had, I mean, our director of search, for example, he had a journalism degree. He came in, he did sales for a couple of months, actually got one of our longest clients that we've ever worked with, still work with them to this day, like 6 years ago. And he transitioned 6 years ago or 5.5 years ago, however long it was, a long time ago, into SEO, and he started our SEO department, and that wouldn't have happened without us having the conversation with Zach being, "Hey, this role is not working out at sales. Do you have what do you wanna do here?" Right? Because the option is either we let you go, you make sales and step it up, or we find another position for you at this company. And it ended up obviously working out super well for us because he's very good at what he does. Um, so just that having that conversation, most business owners, most managers, just don't want to have that now. And it's almost seems like, it's like hop on a Zoom call and we'll have a conversation about your employment, which is crazy. It's like the face to face is no longer there. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, the thing is it's like you just want this to be a part of the culture,
Yeah,
right? So having these scorecards, job
exactly.
scorecards, so we're
Yep.
managing your KPIs.
Mhm.
So a leadership team is meant to have a certain set of KPIs, very specific things assigned to them. They go out and they take their team and they assign different KPIs. And then, HR's got the scorecards and the job scorecards and checking in on a regular basis. And so all these individuals know that they're held accountable to get done what they're meant to get done. And if they're
Mhm.
not, it's the conversation that you had, right? It's like, hey, you're not doing really well in this particular job, but we noticed you do better here. Or is there something that you think you would do better in, right? Can we try that before we say, hey, let's disconnect? But you can't understand that or know that until you dive in and actually metric a person, measure what they're doing. And we've labeled it as bad or wrong, but here's the reality. Like, if you think about yourself as a business owner, an executive, whether you've had a job in the past or even having, building jobs and teams and you've never had a job, right?
Mhm.
Think about what it feels like when you know and you can check off your KPIs and you know that you've done what was necessary for the day to get you to the next step. Do you feel accomplished? Do you feel achieved? Do you feel certain? Do you feel stable? Absolutely. And if you don't have that information, your brain feels all over the place. There's a lot of noise, there's confusion. You feel like you're running around. You don't know what to do. You don't know if you got enough done. It's
Mhm.
so much questions and a lack of clarity. So,
Yep.
all we're doing is we're taking kind of this psychological aspect. It's not a good or bad thing. It's actually a psychology based thing where we're helping people to literally let go of confusion in a workforce. to know when they're doing a great job, to know when they're achieving something, to know when they're on track. And if you're also linking this dynamic in with the core values, the vision, the mission, and they know what they're achieving, if employees are just sitting there and they're like, well, all these KPIs are just so you could be rich and take a vacation, they do not care, right?
Mhm.
But if they're doing and achieving all these things because they get to be a part of the culture, they get to be a part of this cool team, right? And at the same time, like, I loved Sony's. Sony's, this one brought me like a tear of inspiration when I heard it the first time, where he wanted to change how individuals saw Japan. Like, he wanted
Mhm.
Japan to be seen as the leader in technology. And that's a company. It had nothing to do with the company, but it had to do with changing how people saw the entire country. And if you expressed and you have a vision like that and you let everyone know that every day, I mean, again, it just makes me want to, it's a tear of inspiration. It's like, you don't think I want to sign up for that?
Yep.
Like, I want to help you. I want to be a part of that.
Mhm.
Understand your vision, understand your mission, hold people accountable for the greater goal. And it's like, then you give them something amazing to wake up for instead of just having to sit there and be like, did I do a good job? Did I not do a good job? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? I got in trouble. I don't know why. Get the
Yep.
confusion out. Yeah, cut the crap. It's not
I
about
would
being nice. This is nice, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is being nice to someone. Be tough with them. It's nicer.
I
Yeah.
was I was having a conversation with a younger guy. I think he's only like 20 or 21, and he started a plane detailing business. And his vision for this company, like, I talk to business owners and you're a plumbing company, you're an HVAC, you're a roofer. It's like the vision is obviously make sure you're doing good work and you're giving honest pricing, right?
Mhm.
And besides that, there's not much vision there. Maybe they want to leave it to their kids, establish a legacy of the last name, construction, whatever. But I was talking to this guy and we were talking about marketing. I was just kind of giving him some things to look at, and I was like, "Dude, your vision for this business and what you wanna do, and, how, pretty much everyone in his business is 50, 60 plus, they've been doing it forever." Like, I was like, "You don't need a marketing company to come in here and charge you thousands of dollars. You just need to literally what you just did, get in front of a camera and talk about this stuff and get it out there." Because I talked to one of his employees. I mean, he's super bought in. And I can understand why, because I could see how well this guy is going to be able to lead in and put that vision forward and have people really bought into that business. And I was like, don't I don't don't spend thousands of dollars at a marketing agency right now. Um, Literally produce this, just set up a camera or set up your phone. You don't even need to do anything. You don't need to do much. Record yourself about your vision and put this stuff out there. And not only are you going to get fans, are you going to get people to support your business, but I was like, a lot of the people that have jets or planes that you would want to detail and things like that, they're going to appreciate that shit. I was like,
Mhm.
authenticity sells. If you're super successful and you have a plane or whatever, um, there's no bullshitting those people, right? So you have to be upfront, and and having that vision and being authentic is just. I was like, dude, you have this already on its way.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers insurance agency name on the building. We got started when we started our farmers insurance agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. Now, you brought up something about, kind of CEOs being disconnected, but also employees not respecting CEOs. And I read, I was on Reddit, just a couple weeks ago. This is actually pretty recently. And someone posted in their subreddit, I forget what it was. They were a warehouse worker or something like that. And the CEO of the company got their new, I think it was the new ZR1 Corvette, dropped off to the place of work. And this guy was bitching on the subreddit that, I get paid $20 an hour. And, the CEO gets his car dropped off. Obviously, the CEO probably just shouldn't have gotten the car dropped off there, number one. But number two, there's a notion that just owners of companies, CEOs, all of these people make way too much money compared to the average individual at the workplace. I forget what the number is. Like CEOs make 100 or 1,000 times more. Maybe it was 100 times more. And, I have to tell people that is mainly only the case at very large companies. I mean, most small, medium-sized businesses, the owner is not making 1,000 times more than the average employee, at a company. So I guess my question is, number one, how does the CEO or the executive ownership group of a business, even if they make a ton of money, really get the employees to respect them? Is it simply show them more love, pay them more money, or does it really kind of come back to understanding that, what does it come back to?
So the first thing that I work with individuals on this one is to let go of this idea and help them let go of the fantasy that they're going to get respected by everyone all the time.
Yep.
You're not going to. You really aren't. There's certain individuals out there who will watch you and understand what it took for you to get to that point to create that income, and that'll be the warehouse worker that wants to figure out how to work their way up in the company to get to. That's the one that sees what you do as an opportunity and wants to find out and ask questions. How did you get there? How did they get there? What did they do? How did you get to management? That's the individual that's going to work their way up in the company. The one who's going to complain and want more pay for doing less work, technically, it's like, that's the person that eventually is going to get fired. Genuinely, they're eventually going to get fired. They're bitter, resentful, and it's like, this is our reality. Like, I think this is one of the most inspiring things about, for me, that has been in the United States, is if you want a job, you can. I didn't have a traditional education. I didn't. So even when I went into a company, I remember the first job that I had in a larger corporation, I wanted to be in the fashion industry. And so I said, I'm going to be this guy's executive assistant, right? Yep. I was ordering coffee, lunch. One day I spent the whole day researching patio chairs. Like, that was my day. And I'm not an uneducated person. I had a business before that didn't work out so well. My first business at 18. That was fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not like an uneducated person. I don't have experience.
What was the business at 18? What'd you try to do?
I had a skincare company and
Okay.
a retail store. It was really cool.
Very
So we did
nice.
we did whole scale skincare products. I could totally do so much better now. I've learned so much. My husband, he laughs because he's like, one day you're going to go back to it. I was like, I know, I'm not ready yet, but I understand.
You had a retail location at 18?
Yeah, yeah, 18, yeah.
That's
Well, it
crazy,
worked
okay.
out gosh, so many cool
So you had a
things, like,
lease at
out.
18. They I'm
Yeah.
surprised I guess
My parents partnered up with me on this
okay. Okay,
100%. They
okay.
saw me going through college and I was
Mhm.
miserable
Yeah.
and I couldn't pass any classes and I was coming home and I was just miserable. But what they did see me doing, and this was where my parents and their brilliance and paying attention, is they saw that I would go to school and hate my life.
Mhm.
But then I would like sometimes miss school and I was ditching school and I was going to work and they were teaching me how to manage. It's just a surf shop, but they made me manager. I was manager by like 16 and a half at that spot. I was super dedicated. I was loving it. I would come home, I'm all lit up. And then they're like, okay, do you want to have a business? Because you obviously suck at school, but you're really having fun here. And I was like, okay, let's try it instead of college. And I was like, okay. So
I
that was fun.
I s
Yeah.
I seriously I had a great time at college, but I did not like college. I didn't
No,
and I've always
and
been good at school, but I've never I don't know. I like science, I like history, but other than that, I'm like, I don't wanna know. I don't care.
uh,
I just
now I'm a crazy studier, but what I've learned is that we want to learn based on what's valuable to us. And
yep,
the things that were important to me, it wasn't like all the classes they were asking me to take. I didn't want to. I'm an insane
exactly.
studier, by the way. I have done courses and stuff that it's just people would say, why would you do that? And it's like, well, I did it because it was like so inspiring to me. Like that's what I want to know. And it's stuff that I don't ever even bring it up in a podcast, a consult. There's no point. It's
Yep.
just some really advanced stuff that
I'm
makes no sense to study, but I love it. And
I'm
so it's
waiting
just
for
understanding
college to change.
what do we focus on? But some people thrive in college, but that was the thing.
It
They
just
just
seems like
figured
it's
like,
not I have a degree, and I don't think
uh,
it set me up for success, in any facet, and I'm not saying I did college right by any means,
yeah,
but it's also I don't know if it's almost like throwing people directly into debt when you're super young with now especially now knowing more and more so that, like, a college degree is now like a high school degree, and companies,
yeah,
it may you could also speak on this, companies I see don't don't really care if you have a college degree or not. What's arguably more important is if you are competing with the same person that went to college, you have 4 plus more years of working experience underneath them. And especially if you get a job that's valuable, I think an executive assistant or something like that for an owner of a successful business, I think that's a great job. And that's
yeah,
something I wish looking back on that, potentially I would have done was just I don't care how much you get, you're 21 years old. Okay, you can eat shit for a couple of years, find someone that you're actually going to be able to learn a lot from because at the end of the day, that value that you can get from someone that's successful is going to be a lot more than making 10 more $1,000 that year. Because if you are actually able to use that stuff and make yourself way more than that $10,000, then that time was well worth spent. And it just seems like a lot of people also nowadays don't want to put in that effort. And I don't like Gary Vee. I find him highly annoying. But the one thing he did say was, and I thought was interesting, is if you want to essentially learn from someone, offer them something for free, and of course, more importantly, of value. Um, and that way you're gonna be able to get in front of that person, establish a relationship, and actually learn from them. And so what? Maybe you work for free for a couple of months. The value you're gonna get from that is going to be way more than, just going to work somewhere. And I always say as well is that, with marketing especially, what's more important when we hire is experience and past knowledge than anything else. When we hire, someone out of college with a marketing degree, we know that they've probably never run paid ads, right? We know that they've never actually run a campaign for a business. And it's crazy to think about that they have a degree, but they've never actually ran a campaign for a business. So it's almost like they're teaching theory instead of actually teaching fundamentals and execution of that thing. So going back to what I was saying, I think college fundamentally needs to change for a majority of people. Obviously, you have doctors and engineers and whatever, but you go to school, you have all of these the classes you have to take, right? Like you were saying, you have to take elective classes. You have to take all of this stuff. It's like I just want personally, if I were to go back into school, I would know now that I would only want to take these things because that's all I'm interested in. And with the goal of getting this degree, or maybe we change how degrees work as well. Because okay, you got a bachelor of science in chemistry or whatever. It's like there's a lot more jobs now that y- subsets of jobs that don't even have any sort of degree associated with it. Um, I don't know. I would.
Well,
I've talked
this is
about changing college multiple times, and I said I've wanted to establish some sort of college here in the future when I get older. But I talk about it now, and it seems like a daunting task.
It is a daunting task. It's a cool task, though. It's if it's something, yeah, if it's something you're dedicated to, definitely a cool task. And it is an interesting dynamic. I actually am taking college classes now, but I don't now because I just have my own company. I don't have to worry about anything. I make money. I don't have to think about anything.
Hmm.
So it's funny because I take classes online that I feel like taking, and I'm having the best time and I really enjoy it, but I don't have to worry about getting a degree or getting the certification just because of the way I built my life, right? For
Yep.
me, this is enjoyable. For me, this is fun. And for me, this is an added bonus to my life and what I do. Right. And so it's like this is the cool thing. And I say this, even my dad says it, and I agree with him. I won the lottery living where I live, being born where I got born, even in LA. Like I won the freaking lottery for sure. Like already I feel like one of the luckiest people alive. And what we do with those opportunities is what we make of our lives, and it's really cool because this goes in every aspect. I didn't have if I go back and I even look at that dynamic of starting that first company at 18, I basically was given a choice. And after that choice was made, all these puzzle pieces started to fall into place that really just like it like spiraled into giving me this experience that most people don't have the opportunity to have.
Hmm.
But I was following the vision, I was following the inner voice, right? And this is what, like, when we think, and this is when you run a company, when you think about it, right? This is what you want to tap into, because they say like when the why is big enough, the how falls into place. The how is there. This is where I just want to smash this for people. The how is actually right in front of your face.
Yep.
You just can't see it because you haven't connected with the why. So the how doesn't fall into place. You connect with the why, you all of a sudden see the how and you take action.
Hmm.
Like that's what's really occurring in life. So when you get that why, all of a sudden you look like the lucky person that life just did things for. Life did not just do things for you. You connected with what was important. You saw the opportunities and you took action on them. You probably failed a ton. You probably messed up beyond like probably sometimes what you care to admit,
Yeah.
you know? But you just kept going and you kept moving forward, and the next opportunity and the next opportunity and the next opportunity. So it's like connect with that why. And I have a guy who's in the construction business and he does roofing.
Hmm.
And you can sit there and say that your goal is to like have happy customers, but that's not his goal. His vision is he wanted this company to help individuals become financially independent and so wealthy
Hmm.
that they could support their families and live a life as like almost an employee and an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Because what he went through in the past of going through the pain of watching his family fail as entrepreneurs and the financial struggle, he now has created a dynamic where they get to be entrepreneurs within a company. So they have a safe base pay, but can explore and become wealthy if they want. And that is someone who wakes up every day and is dedicated to what they do. And so when I say find the deeper
Yeah.
core,
Yeah.
you may not have known it when you first started it, but once you start to like, and normally people at time people come to me that have a business for a while, and I'll start to ask questions, and it's like, oh, you're not doing this for that reason. This is why you're doing it. I have another client, he has an oil company in third world country. And once we got into the grid of it, he just wanted to have a business where individuals could have a first world life and first world pay. So there's first world pay in a third world country. That was his goal. He
Hmm.
wanted them to have a different life because of what he experienced growing up there. And it's like you don't get that
You'll have
unless
to
you
ask him if he's watched Landman on Paramount with Billy
oh,
Bob
too.
Thornton.
I'll ask him. I'll
It's
ask him.
shout out that show is pretty damn good. I've
Is
already
it?
yeah. I've
I
watched
saw it, I was like, "Do I wanna watch this?" But yeah, I'll
you
probably watch it now.
you should.
Now that you've given me that.
It's fantastic. Anyway, sorry. I
Okay.
interrupted you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so that's it. If you find that, that's what people are inspired to
Mhm.
support. That's what people want to be a part of. I want to be a part of it. I want to help you guys like launch your business and make it as big as possible.
Yeah, that's
I want to be the hardest working consultant ever because you are so inspiring and that sounds so cool. And like,
yeah.
can I help you with that? So it's yeah, it's not just your employees, but it's everyone around you that signs up for it.
Mhm.
So find it. Yeah, find it, figure it out. Like, let's get there.
Well, our our original why in order to build Vi was just we wanted to start a marketing company in order to learn absolutely everything about marketing in order to grow businesses and then therefore be able to grow other businesses. And what I learned
Mhm.
is that the amount of wasted money, bad strategies, and just absolutely shitty marketing companies with terrible practices that are extracting money from all of these small businesses is criminal. So now, literally, my why is to make sure that as many business owners are not getting fucked over by bad marketing companies,
Yeah.
and producing content and making free content for all of anybody to watch on our Vi Media channel, about marketing. That's really become my why. Now, I'm sure my why will change into something else. But right now, that is, I think, my why. I think.
Yeah. So, and this is where I like to challenge everyone. If you can get tears of inspiration, tears of gratitude around your why, like that is so, you
Mm.
have no idea. It changes your life. Like when
But
I
I'm a
first
man.
started,
I can't tear up. I can't cry.
you could totally do it. I have so many male clients, I make them cry all the time. They're like, I'm crying again. I was like, that's the point. And they're inspiration tears. So we're good to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think this is really cool because it's like we all start our companies in the beginning and we think it's because we want to make the money. We think it's because this is like the thing. But then you dive into it and it's like even when I did it, like when I dove into it later, like I really want to empower like these people
Mhm.
to live out their destiny. The people who feel that this business that they have, like what they're doing with the business is so impactful. I want to help people live out that destiny. I don't just have like a company, I have that. And the other reason we want to figure this out is because it's like then we know how to talk to our market. You're talking to people who have been screwed over by marketing companies. They're
Yep,
exhausted, tired. They still want the support and they still want to figure it out, but they just don't want to get ripped off again. And I'm
exactly.
talking to people who are like, I love what you're saying, Carly, and I feel like there's something inside me that I haven't found quite yet. And I just want to find that thing and I want to build it, or they already have that thing and they're like, I can't get there. I want to make that impact. This does feel like my destiny. Right. And it's like, that's who's going to talk to me. So if you're not understanding what your vision is, who are you talking to? Who are you building? You're going to get a bunch of people. And this was the craziest thing that I've even personally seen. And you can relate this to your own business. And when I was disconnected from this, I swear I was getting these clients, man. And we were canceling packages because I wanted to cancel them as well.
Mhm.
I was like, this is not in alignment with what I want. And I said to myself, what message am I putting out there that these are the type of people that are signing up because this is not a fit. And until I got clear, I wasn't now it's like when I bring in a client, I'm like, I love you so much. It's so much fun.
Yep,
You're the
yep.
best. Like
Yeah, I
this
feel
is
like
so
everyone
exciting.
goes through that when they first start a business. You have to learn the people you don't wanna work with, if you know what I mean.
And that's your bad marketing, which is where you come in, by the way.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, when we first
Uh,
started, I mean, for the first couple of years, you'd always run into those clients that are just absolute nightmares. Thank God, all of our clients that we work with right now are great. We love you all. And we haven't had anyone come across our desk probably since the beginning of last year that has just been like, "Oh god." For one reason or another, it's like you can't help this person. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you do, it's a waste of time. Um, so last question before we get out of here. What is like one thing that a business owner can do that can be the most impactful? Or what is one issue that you see that every business owner goes through that they should change or address in order to what's the one thing that a owner can do today to or tomorrow or over the
mhm.
next
Yeah.
month or so to make a big impact on their business?
Yeah, starting to shift the mindset, right? Like it's for one, it's okay to have problems. I said it. Most people and companies have issues and problems and challenges. But the second thing is this is really like a mindset shift. Is this doesn't have to suck,
Mhm.
right? Like whenever I do this, like yeah, there is stuff that's like challenging, but you make it fun and you make it inspiring, and then it becomes something fulfilling again. So many people lose sight of how enjoyable business is because they get caught in the weeds. And it's like, you don't have to get caught in the weeds. Shift your mindset, realize you don't have to get stuck in the weeds. Let's make it fun again. Let's make it enjoyable again. Let's get you back to where you started in the beginning, where you're like, this is something that I would love to do,
Mhm.
and figure out a way to not just stabilize the company, but stabilize that within yourself. Because you are the vision, you're the leader, and you lead by example. And when you do that, like people follow, and then you get to have that impact. That's what you get to give the world, and that snowballs to a degree that we can't even metric, because it keeps going from person to person to person, and that's a cool life to live. That's a cool thing when you're on your deathbed to think, I did that. I helped people. Yeah.
Oh, deathbed. I hate thinking about death still. That
uh,
keeps me awake once a month. I'm like, oh, geez. Yeah, yeah, that
a whole different day.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, I think, you know, that is like the love of the game, the love of building a business. People just get burnt out, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you see it. It's either, like a ton of different factors, and it's trying to go back to why did I do this in the first place?
Mhm.
Um, see that all the time, and it's like a change of heart, right? It's now, okay, I remember why I'm doing this. I know why I'm doing this. And it makes going to work, working on your business a hell of a lot easier and a hell of a lot better if you have that mindset. It's so let me ask you about this real quick before we get out of here. And going back to employees real quick and also just the mindset of employees. Is there a way to improve, the mindset of employees? Like those people that we kind of talked about, the guy that was complaining about the owner's new car. Let's just say employees that are dragging down other team members, negative people. Are those people, those negative people, are they just a product or of whatever? And essentially, there's no helping them. You just need to let them go. Or is there something that can actually be done with those people? Because it
Yeah.
it, it seems like now it's like we almost just want them to quiet quit and leave, but really that can be like the fire, right? The little ember that starts that just burns out your whole company or half of your company or whatever.
Yeah. And this is the reality of it, where like we'll go in, and it's part of it is diagnosing, right? So
Mhm.
if you have a common problem with multiple people, let's diagnose and see what's happening overall in the company
Yeah.
that this is occurring. We also go in and we'll do just different kind of, there's the personality assessments, but there's one specifically that I really love and enjoy that I implement with companies. There's a couple of them, right?
Do you use
Just to
DISC?
help. Which one?
DISC test?
Yeah, so I'm using Disc a lot with the leadership team, but then
Yeah.
as far as the big groups, we actually do a different dynamic, which we're doing values. And values specifically is helping these bigger and larger groups be able to become more inspired, right? So if I have a
Mhm.
thousand people in a company, or even 500, 200, like not everyone's going to do a disc, and the leadership team doesn't have time to do disc for everyone. And so this is where we come in and we do things as a group. We have these workshops and stuff, right?
Yep.
And what's really interesting is I've had people who, after we're like trying to get them to go through this process, are so unwilling, but at the same time realize that like they hate working here and they don't
Mhm.
even want to do this, and they just quit. Right. And so it's funny because I warn owners about this. I'm like, listen, like this is a great process, but you might have some people quit. But just know, once you do a review, the people who are going to quit are the ones who you're like, we kind of were questioning them anyways.
Right.
Right. And yeah, so it's really cool. So those are the different dynamics. And then it's like, let's say that individual worker is, someone who this is a worthwhile person to keep on board. It might be a leader. If it is a leader, then you spend the extra time and investment to try to get them to the other side. But if you see that you can't, there is a point where you're going to let people go, because there's only so much time, energy, money you can focus on people. But yeah, we have solutions for groups. We have solutions for like solo, depending on, again, the level of individual and the financial investment and time.
Sure.
Yeah, for
Wonderful.
sure. Mhm.
Well, where can people find you?
westcoastgrowthadvisors.com. Yeah, so you can contact me directly there, and there's social media channels too.
Perfect. We will put that down in the description. You can find that there. All right. Wonderful discussion today. All right. That, as always, that is all the time we have for today. However, we will be back next week with a new episode, new guest. Of course, as always, please like, review, subscribe, leave a comment, share with a friend, share with an individual. As always, shout out to Half Coast Studios. We're sitting here in the studio podcast right now. You can reach out to them at halfcoaststudios.com. If you're looking to record a podcast or just have them distribute it and edit it, they can do it all for you. And of course, as always, the best damn marketing company on the planet, Vi Media. Reach out to us at vi.media. That's VIE.media. No one says Vi right, even though it's Pi, Tie. Everyone says V. So it's not V, it's Vi Media. Vi.media, VIE.media. You'll get to talk to myself. All right. We'll see everyone next week. Thank you.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Mm-hmm. Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast.